The Galactic Council had a designation for planets like Earth, Deathworlds, planets where the gravity crushed bones, where the atmosphere corroded flesh, where the native flora and fauna evolved with singular purpose: to kill. The Taurians, with their chitinous exoskeletons and remarkable adaptability, had conquered them all. One by one, these nightmarish planets fell under their control. Fleet Commander Vorx gazed at the blue-green orb through the view screen of his command ship. Earth looked deceptively peaceful from orbit. Sensor readings indicated it was yet another Class 9 Deathworld. High gravity, diverse biosphere, extreme climate variations, and a dominant apex species. Another primitive world for the collection, remarked Science Officer Drell, her mandibles clicking softly as she studied the data. The natives call themselves humans, bipedal mammals, no natural armor, no enhanced strength, vulnerable to temperature extremes, radiation, and countless pathogens. Vorx flicked his antennae in amusement. Then this conquest should be straightforward. Prepare the standard subjugation protocol. How wrong he was. The Taurian Empire had established a simple pattern for Deathworld conquests: demonstrate overwhelming technological superiority, eliminate resistance, establish control centers, and exploit resources. They had done this across 17 systems without failure. The first landing parties touched down in regions the humans called Siberia, Sahara, and Antarctic, remote areas where resistance would be minimal. Within hours, the humans had detected their presence. Within days, they had organized. Within weeks, they had adapted. What confounded the Taurians was not human military might. Their weapons were primitive compared to plasma rifles and orbital cannons. What confounded them was human ingenuity. "They've reversed-engineered components from our downed scout ship," reported Field Commander Jex as emergency signals blared in the background. "They shouldn't have the technical capacity to do this for decades, yet they accomplished it in 14 days. Vorx's compound eyes narrowed. Impossible. But the evidence mounted. Human resistance fighters had somehow modified their crude projectile weapons to penetrate Taurian armor. They had developed jamming technology that disrupted Taurian communications. Most alarmingly, they had begun to coordinate globally, despite having no unified government. "There's something we're missing," Vorx muttered, reviewing the data on human history. What he found disturbed him. These humans had spent their entire existence fighting, not just external threats, but each other. War was embedded in their culture, their technology, their very thinking. They had developed weapons specifically designed to kill their own kind. What kind of species evolved that way? 6 months into what should have been a standard conquest, the Taurian Empire faced unprecedented losses. 3 command centers had been overrun, 2 battlecruisers had been destroyed, and the humans were getting better at fighting back with each passing day. "They adapt too quickly," Science Officer Drell admitted, her usual confidence shaken. "Their learning curve defies all models, and she hesitated. "They seem to enjoy the challenge." Intelligence reports revealed a disturbing pattern. Human soldiers were observed laughing during combat. They created songs about resistance. They celebrated victories with feasts and rituals. This wasn't mere survival instinct. They took satisfaction in warfare. The final blow to Taurian confidence came when a human delegation somehow breached security and appeared on the command ship itself. Led by a grizzled commander named Rodriguez, they brought not surrender terms but an offer. "You've got tech, we've got grit," Rodriguez stated plainly. "But we've studied your biology now. You need specific atmospheric conditions, certain nutrients. We've identified 17 vulnerabilities in your physiology that we could exploit tomorrow if we wanted." Vorx's mandibles trembled despite his efforts to maintain composure. "Then why come here? Why not simply destroy us?" Rodriguez shrugged, a uniquely human gesture. "Because that's not interesting. We could wipe you out, sure, but we'd rather learn from you." That was when Vorx understood. Earth wasn't just a death world, it was the death world. The planet that had forged humans wasn't just physically hostile. It had created conditions where intelligence, Adaptability and cooperation became the ultimate survival traits. And paradoxically, so did competition and conflict. Humans hadn't merely survived their brutal world, they had thrived because of it. The Galactic Council was stunned when Vorax recommended not conquest, but alliance. His report included a new classification. Earth would be designated the only Class 10 death world in known space. They lack our technology and numbers, his report concluded, but they possess something far more dangerous. Endless creativity born from countless generations of overcoming impossible odds. They do not fear death as we do. They transform obstacles into opportunities. They unify in the face of external threats while maintaining internal competition that drives constant innovation. In short, we could spend a century trying to conquer Earth, or we could spend a decade learning to work with humans. The former path leads to our destruction. The latter might lead to a new golden age for both species. 5 years later, the first human-Taurian joint expedition set out to explore deep space. As Vorax watched the ship depart, he reflected on how thoroughly they had misunderstood Earth. They had seen a planet filled with dangers and assumed its inhabitants would be primitive, focused solely on survival. Instead, they found a species that turned survival into an art form, a species that created poetry about war and made sports of deadly activities, a species that climbed mountains because they were there and dove into oceanic trenches out of curiosity. Most galactic species evolved to avoid danger. Humans evolved to overcome it, even seek it out. That was the crucial difference. You know what's funny? Rodriguez, now an ambassador, said as he stood beside Vorax. We always thought aliens would be the scary ones. Vorax clicked his mandibles. In what he had learned was the equivalent of a human smile. Perhaps we all have something to fear in the universe. You humans simply learned to turn fear into fuel. And perhaps that, Vorax thought, was the most valuable lesson from the death world, called Earth.